And thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon. I'm delighted to welcome you to this Family Research Update. I'm Kathlene Jones. I'm the founder and the CEO of the Prader-Willi Research Foundation Australia. Having a slight technical hitch that the slides are moving. Here we go. So, acknowledgement of country. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the lands on which we meet today, the many people of the many nations across this vast continent. And I pay my respects to our elders past and present. I look forward to the day when our First Nations people who have Prader-Willi syndrome are fully included in healthcare access. I'm going to quickly walk everybody through the Zoom functionality today so that you can all participate. All the participants that have dialed in are muted and you can't start your camera, but there is a question and answer functionality that we want you to be able to use. It's along the bottom of your screen, and when you open the Q&A window, you'll be able to ask questions of the hosts and the panelists. They can either reply back to you directly via text in that window, or they'll answer your question live. To ask a question, just click the Q&A box, put your question in, and then click send. Now, let's get down to the business of the research update. I started this organisation in 2015. My daughter Chloe was 1 at the time, and here she is, just a few days old, before we'd ever heard of Prader-Willi syndrome. She was in special care nursery after going dusky. She was being tube fed and she was full of antibiotics, but her bright eyes pierced your heart. And the first time I'd ever heard of Prader-Willi syndrome was at her diagnosis. And quite frankly, that's not good enough for a condition that affects so many people with such big impact on their quality of life. Not long after she was diagnosed, a stem cell scientist told me, with the biotools available today, there will be a treatment. However, the work needed to be done. And whilst you will notice that Chloe was the catalyst for this foundation, it is not called the Chloe Foundation. It is the Prader-Willi Research Foundation, and it's for everybody with Prader-Willi syndrome here in Australia and abroad. And the more people that we get involved, the faster we can get traction. And as you look through our slides today, you'll see it's impossible to not be touched by the smiling faces of our beautiful children and our community. And everything we do at Prader-Willi Research Foundation is for our beautiful children and adults who are unfortunate enough to have this cruel condition. And to all the families and friends who have supported our work, we thank you. I thank you. Without you, we could not be pushing the work forward, and it is because of you that we can have hope that there will be better treatments for Prader-Willi syndrome. The Family Research Update is being held in conjunction with our 2023 Australian Prader-Willi Research Symposium, which is being held in person tomorrow in Melbourne. We have an incredible lineup of speakers for that event also, and we will make recordings of many of those sessions and make those available online later. Importantly, tomorrow we have a family panel, including some incredible mums and including Angus Crowe, who's 26 and has Prader-Willi syndrome. We see our role as vital to connect families and scientists. If we want to grow Prader-Willi research that's high impact, we need to be having a conversation between our families, with our loved ones who do have Prader-Willi syndrome, and with the scientists and clinicians who can drive the research. This organisation exists to empower families to drive forward research into Prader-Willi syndrome treatments that will make a difference to their loved ones. This is our biggest online research update so far, and it really reflects the growth in Australian research into Prader-Willi syndrome during the last 5 years. In 2016, our research director, Dr. Diane Webster, and I baselined the Australian investment into Prader-Willi research, and we could only identify a few $100,000 worth of projects. Our speakers today will take you through work that represents actually multiple millions of dollars that have been invested, not just by us, we've invested some of it, but more importantly by other philanthropic organisations, private individuals and government. We need these other organisations to be really adding a lot more funding to what Prader-Willi Research Foundation can inject. I really want to thank all of our speakers today for their hard work and their efforts to find treatments that improve the life of our loved ones with Prader-Willi syndrome. They really do care about the outcomes for our children, and many of them have taken career risks to get involved and to really focus on research that's going to have an impact on our kids. Working together is critical for growing Prader-Willi research. And we know that for those conditions where families work together, it's more likely that improved treatments and care will happen. For example, the outlook for children with cystic fibrosis has been transformed from childhood mortality to growing into adulthood, having jobs, partners, and children. And we are seeing new transformative therapies coming to market for conditions like spinal muscular atrophy and Duchenne. The families have collaborated and worked hard to uplift the needs of their children. We also know that in geographies where research happens, clinical care is better. This is because doctors are learning, driving changes in outcomes. We purposely grow Australian research for these reasons. We have incredibly talented researchers here who can add to the global effort, and you're going to hear from some of those people today. A really critical part of maximising the dollars that we do raise is having very strong governance principles to support our organisation. So you'll see we have a fantastic board who are well connected and incredibly professional. Our Scientific Advisory Council has a formalised process to review and evaluate projects, and they're drawn from the best medical research institutes in Australia. We have contracts in place with all of our research providers and all of the projects. We are a registered health charity with ACNC. We make sure that we're always compliant. Our financial statements are audited. We have organisational KPIs, and we have a research roadmap. And today you'll be able to hear more from Dr. Diane Webster about our latest research roadmap. Earlier this year, or late last year, we did a family survey, and we wanted to know what is it that matters to Australian families who are living with Prader-Willi syndrome. And you can see here the things that they said that matter most around having a medical team, the right medical team with the access to the right information, the latest information about how to manage Prader-Willi syndrome. And they also said that fundraising for Prader-Willi research and lobbying was very important to them. We asked them what they want us to focus on, this organisation, and they wanted us to focus on developing treatments for hunger. They wanted us to invest in treatments to switch on the sleeping genes. They want us to lobby government and others to invest further in Prader-Willi research. And they want us to invest in developing treatments for behaviour. And what you'll see today is that a lot of the work we have done so far absolutely lines up with these priorities. And the roadmap that Diane is going to talk you through completely reflects these priorities. You can see that we have our projects to date have been around access to existing treatment. So you will notice that earlier this year, we launched the first Prader-Willi care coordinator nurse who is linked to the Healthcare Centre of Expertise. We have been working on clinical trials, exercise needs, sleep disordered breathing, and looking at how we understand better the genetics of Prader-Willi syndrome, and we target those to get better outcomes. Importantly, we've also been looking at research infrastructure so that we can grow other scientists and other clinicians to do research into Prader-Willi. If we can make these important scientific tools available to them, then we can make sure that that supports them and encourages them to apply their existing work into and their existing expertise to Prader-Willi syndrome. We're delighted with the uptick in media coverage that we've been able to generate since October of last year. We've been, 5 TV segments, but, the project, I've had families come up to me at the walks earlier this year and tell me what a difference seeing our kids and seeing particularly Angus and Chloe talking on the project has made to them. We're across a number of print and digital articles, and we've been on radio as well. We've also been revitalising the political conversation through our walks. So in Melbourne, we had state and federal MPs, and that resulted in a speech to Victorian Parliament. In Brisbane, we had state MPs and a speech to Queensland Parliament was a result. And then in Canberra, we had the ACT Minister for Health. This takes us, I'm going to hand over to Diane now. I did want to say that over the past year, we have invested $230,000 into gene transforming projects, and another $90,000 we have committed to the Prader-Willi Centre of Expertise, and we have another $80,000 committed towards grants for this and another project for this year. So we're really delighted with what we've been able to achieve. And the other thing that we're very happy with is what I call the multiplier. So for every dollar that we are investing in Prader-Willi research, those projects are going out and then obtaining 10 times more funding. And that's really critical because we have been a grassroots organisation that families have been driving. And it means that if we are investing in the right projects to the right degree, these really talented scientists can go out and secure a lot more money on the basis of the work that we seed.